Joining us now to discuss more on this topic, Vice President of the Heritage Foundation, James Carafano. James, thank you, sir, for joining us. What's your take on what's going on with this?
Well, I thought Blinken's answers on the National Security Advisor's answers on the talk shows was the worst possible answer you could possibly do. He said, we're going to do two things. We're going to review the intelligence we already have. That means you're doing nothing. And we're going to press the World Health Organization to investigate, which you also know won't happen. So you're publicly announcing two steps, which you and everybody else knows will fail. And then you're saying at the end of the 3 months of doing nothing, we don't know if we're going to do anything. So that sends exactly the wrong signal to the Chinese. Essentially, we're doing nothing and we're promising to do nothing. So I think the answer is look, if they actually uncovered the smoking gun, they would have to do something about it. And they just don't want to be put in that difficult position.
James, as I was listening to what Emerald was saying in reference to Secretary Blinken saying, no threats or ultimatums to China, a response that will come in concert with our allies, it seems to be a similar position, if not the same position, that this administration is taking when it comes also to Russia and things that we know that Russia has done.
Yeah, this all really ties together. If you take this response and then what they've done with Russia and the European tour, it all adds up to the same thing. The president said, American leadership is back and we want to engage. But when you talk to Europeans behind the scene, they basically say, what we heard is America is leaving and you're on your own. And the reason for that is, for all the rhetoric of saying we're going to do things, the administration actually isn't doing anything. It's not taking really concrete actions, which are the only things that the Russians and the Chinese really pay attention to. And not only are they not taking actions in the case of Russia, we've actually backed off on being tough on the Russians. And so what European leaders, what the Russians are doing, what the Chinese are doing, is they're reading what we're actually doing. And what they think they're seeing is a replay of the Obama administration, which is a lot of very nice rhetoric, but they're actually very reluctant, very reticent to actually get out there and protect America's interests. So if you're a bad guy, you're saying, okay, how do I fill in that space and gap and get more of what I want? If you're an ally, you're saying, what do I do to protect myself? Because it's increasingly clear the Americans may not be there for me.
Yeah. Following President Biden's first foreign trip to Europe for the G7, you wrote an op-ed titled G7 Gives World 3 Biden Lessons. Here are the surprising things we've learned. In the op-ed, you stressed that these takeaway lessons offer little reason to believe President Biden will be up to the task of leading an effective response by the free world. Your comments, sir.
Yeah, look, so we have this, on the one hand, everybody loves Uncle Joe. I mean, we even see that here domestically. But what's interesting is, we watch domestically as he remains popular, but his policies are sinking like a rock. And the same thing we see overseas. His popularity is fine, but when you actually dig into the actual policies, people don't like them. And there's two problems there. One is, I think it's increasingly clear that the president and the vice president of the United States are really just phoning it in. That there are a bunch of people in the White House which are directing particularly foreign policy and which are just following the old Obama playbook. And the president is literally an observer. And the other problem is the Obama playbook didn't work. It didn't actually protect American interests. And I just think it's literally the case of the emperor has no clothes. And I think here we are just 100 days in, and that is what's increasingly the global impression of Biden's leadership.
Yeah, I also wonder, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, President Biden's cognitive ability. And when you get out there on the world stage, like what we witnessed for the G7, are people going to be so inclined to still believe this, the grandpa thing, that's what in fact is working? Or are they seeing, a bigger issue when it comes to his cognitive ability?
Well, of course, I can't comment on that because we don't have any real data to assess his mental state. But the real test of leadership is the decisions that a president makes and actually does. And we're just not seeing a lot of that. So it's very, very difficult to assess his actual ability to lead because he doesn't actually appear to be leading. And the policies really seem like remote control. But here's the bigger issue. Another issue for the White House is they have a fawning press, no offense, very uncritical Congress, lots of pundits out there, supporting that. But But when you actually look at the polling on their policies, whether it's domestic things like border security or critical race theory or their leadership overseas, there's not a lot of confidence. And that's got to be worrying for the administration, how the shtick isn't really selling in terms of people believing that this administration can lead.
Yeah. I don't think we're fawning. That's why we're talking about this. So, James Carafano, thank you, sir.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you.
Thanks for watching the Heritage Foundation's YouTube channel. With more than 500,000 members, we are the nation's largest conservative research and education institution. We believe the principles and ideas of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing. Please help us further our mission by subscribing to this channel and sharing our videos with your family and friends.